Hi boys and girls, this is Mrs. Lee. Today I'm here to talk to you about how to continue working on our Eric Carle inspired animal collages. So as we learned last time I saw you, Eric Carle was an illustrator. An illustrator is the person who draws the images in a book. And he did all the images in this book. And you also probably recognize this one. And there's many others that he did as well. He made his images by first painting on a piece of paper like this, and he would paint all these different animal textures on the paper, and then he would cut out the paper and glue them down onto a piece of paper like this to create a collage. Here's another example of an animal collage using the textured paper. So last time I saw you, we made the textured paper. Today we're going to work on drawing out our animal, and then we're going to cut the paper and we're going to create our collage. So the next step, what we want to do today is decide what kind of animal we want to draw. Some of you already know. If you're not sure, you might want to talk to your teacher and she can give you some suggestions. I decided that I wanted to draw a lion. So I found an image on the internet of a lion, and I looked at it and I drew it. You might want to look up an image of your animal, or you all are so creative that I bet you could just draw one from your imagination. So I took this image and I looked at it. I didn't trace it, but I drew it and I sort of simplified it and made it even bigger. We want our image to be nice and big so it will fill up the page when we create our work of art. All right, so this is how big I made mine. Now the next step is you're going to cut out this image. So you're going to need a pair of scissors today and some glue. All right, I already cut out my image, so I'm going to show you what it looks like. First, I cut out around the image. Now if we go back and we look at Eric Carle's images, we notice that he cuts out his paper in different places. So at this point we have to decide what's going to be different parts of paper in our animal. So I'm going to look at him, and first I'm going to cut out his mane. Okay, so I'm cutting out his mane of hair. Okay, and then I'll be putting him down on the back side of my colored paper, and I will be tracing the different parts so that he's not just one part of my paper, but multiple parts of my paper. So now I have this part and I have this part, and they will fit together. Now I want his mane to be one color, so I'm going to cut that out of his face. Little details like the nose and the eyes, we don't have to cut those out because later we can go back over our image and we can draw on it with crayons, just like Eric Carle did, to add details like eyes. Or we can even cut out little pieces of paper like a little pink triangle maybe for the nose, if we'd like to do that. Now if you don't have all the colors of paper that you need to finish your animal, I bet that you have a friend in class that might loan you a little piece of pink or a little piece of blue or whatever you need, because we all made so many different cool textures and colors in class the other day. So now I have his head cut out, his mane cut out, and his body. So I have at least 3 different pieces. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to do something a little bit more. I want to do his back paws a different color than his front paws, because his back paws are going to be a little bit more in the shadows. So I'm going to cut those out as well. And those are going to be a separate color. Okay. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. Now I need to get my colored paper that I made, my painted paper. Here it is. And I have to decide what's going to be what color, and I'm going to trace it on the back. So let me pause the video and I'll show you how I did that. Okay, boys and girls, now I'm going to be tracing my lion onto the back side of my painted paper. I want to trace it onto the back side because I don't want my pencil lines to show. So here you can see I've already done the tracing. When I traced it, I put the pieces on the back upside down. I do it upside down because I want it to all be going the right direction when I cut it out and glue it back down. So if you trace it all upside down, that means you want to turn over your drawing so that the pencil lines are down, and make sure you do all of them like that. The alternative would be to trace them the other direction, and then as long as you trace them all the same direction, it will fit back together in the end. You just have to trace them all the same direction. So I traced that one into that little rectangle. I traced the mane into this one. I traced the head into this one, and you can see that I'm gonna have a lot of paper left over when I'm done. And then I traced this is what I call a rough cut. So anytime I'm going to be cutting out an image that's maybe a little bit complicated, I like to start by first doing a rough cut, which means I'm kind of just going around it, not going into all the details. Here is what my close cut looks like. So here I'm going closer to my pencil lines. Once you have all your pieces nicely cut out, you can start to reassemble them. You might want to look back at your original picture because sometimes it can get a little confusing to figure out what part is what. So here's how I did it. I took my pieces and I'm going to put them just like this and get them all in the right spot on a good piece of white paper. And then once I feel like they look pretty good, I'm going to get my glue stick and I'm going to glue each one down really, really good. This is a really important part, the gluing, because if you don't glue all the parts down and they start to peel off, it's just not going to look very good. So take your time when you're gluing it and do a really good job. Notice how I didn't do the face yet on the animal because I'm going to get it glued down and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do for his face. All right, so here I am back again with my finished lion. So I glued him down really nicely. I tried to make sure all the little corners are glued down. And then I cut out a piece of paper from my textured colored paper that I made and put like a little shadow under him. So that's an option. If you're doing like an underwater animal, you could put like seaweed down there or even put in a couple extra fish, depending on what kind of animal you're doing. Feel free to use some of your scraps or even your friend's scraps to add a little bit of background. For the face, I used a little piece of paper for the nose that I cut out, and then the rest I did with crayons. You could either use crayons or a Sharpie to add in things like eyes and little details that are hard to cut out. Okay, the last thing I did was I signed my name on the bottom, just like Eric Carle does on all of his artwork. He does his name really nice and neat, like a little cursive signature down on the bottom, so you can do that as well. So that's it. That's our Eric Carle animal. Good luck. I can't wait to see how they turn out.